Hexagon Mead grew from a long-held idea of beekeeper and mountain honey kaikoura owner Nick Parkinson. The delicate floral honeys they produce and the extended family history on the property inspired the idea.
We first started as kaikoura apiaries back in the 1960s, and then when the older partners decided to retire, I came into the business with my wife Helen, and we formed Mountain Honey Kaikoura, and we've been organic for a good 17 years now. The smell of thyme in there, that's for sure. The honey we produce, Manuka honey, on this side of the mountains, the seaward side of the Kaikouras. But our principal honey for many years was blue borage, also known as Viper's bugloss. And it's a very light, mild honey. And it was first produced as a monofloral or a single source by my father-in-law and his cousin, Jim Godfrey, back in the early 1970s. And from then, we marketed that to all parts of New Zealand. We've exported it to the USA, Japan, the UK, various places like that. We also get a little bit of honeydew, but mostly it's Manuka this side and blue borage from the high country. Organic honey is a real challenge. It's very, very difficult these days because of the advent of Varroa bee mite. But we found that by being as persistent as we can with the treatments, and we need to use treatments that are according to the ASHA quality organic standard, then you can end up with decent bee population and a chance to get a good honey crop. When I first started beekeeping, one of the things that you do all the time is sort of dip your finger into the frames and taste the honey. And we were in a particular area where the honey was nice and warm, and to me it tasted like liqueur. And I just mentioned it to Jim, my off-sider, my wife's uncle, and I said, oh, we should be making mead out of this stuff. And he just sort of chuckled away, and then we ended up back here in the honey shed. We were extracting our honey, and I was going on about mead again. And he went away and he came back with a bottle like this and a little glass, and he poured me my first ever glass of mead. And it was more than 20 years old. It was absolutely beautiful. It was made from the borage honey that we'd been harvesting from the high country. And then time went on and we sort of lost track of what we were doing, and my eldest son, got very keen on brewing and beer making and wine making. And he made some beautiful beer from borage honey, and I said to him, why don't you make some mead like Jim and Archie used to make, the old guys? And he really liked that idea, so he decided to get into it, and we did some experimental batches, and then he was advised by a winemaker friend of his to do the brewing inside full 220-litre barrels. And so we decided to do that, and that's where we found the magic really started to happen. We do all of our fermentation and ageing in these French oak casks. They're all reconditioned barrels that we get from wineries, and we can use them again as a vessel for the whole of the process, from fermentation right through to ageing, all the way through to these ones that have been here for more than 2.5 years. There's 3 principal ingredients in mead, and that is honey, water and yeast. But the secret to good mead is actually good honey, like any good ingredient, then a controlled fermentation process. We're only producing a small amount each year, up to 4 to 6 barrels at a time, but we'd like to increase our production as the demand increases. One of the big things with mead is that most people don't know what it is. So I'll give you a little bit of a taste of that. When they do try it, they really like it. And one of the things that we want to try and do is educate people as much about mead as anything else, as well as giving them a taste. And the idea is to try and lift mead out of the Middle Ages and into the modern world to make it like a modern, sophisticated drink, which it is, which can be enjoyed like a sherry or a port. Yep, like that.
I like that, yeah.
You can drink mead immediately because of the aging in the barrel. You'll get the influence of the oak, the tannins and the vanillins that come through the oak. We've found that mead in the bottle starts to really mellow out after 8 to 10 months to a year. And even mead that's been in a bottle for longer than that still has an element of mellowing. The bee box in town is owned by my nephew, and he's put together a honey concept shop. So he has all of our honeys in there, plus a few other honeys he buys in. There's photos on the wall of our relatives, my father-in-law and his cousin that started the business years ago. So there's photos from the 70s and 80s. And it just gives a background to the 3 generations of the family members that have been involved with beekeeping and honey production, organics, and now into mead making. We were lucky enough to have Prince Charles come here on the 23rd of November, and we were invited to be a stall holder, so we had a chance to showcase our mead and our honey. I explained to him how the mead was made, and he was really interested in what we were doing, and we were able to give him a little sample of the mead to take back with him. So we gave him 2 bottles of mead and 3 pots of honey, and I said to him that I know that you like honey for breakfast in the morning. He said, yes, I do. And then as he was sort of parting and heading off to the next lot of people, I said, make sure your mum gets a taste of that mead. And he thought that was really quite funny. And then, so we really enjoyed that visit and appreciated him coming to Kaikoura and speaking to the local people here. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, New Zealand On Air.